Tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to start in at, say, 12 fathoms or 20 metres and work our way out to, so a little bit on the 500 metre stuff, but probably not all of you can get out there. So that'll be very short. We'll probably incorporate that more with our deep dropping seminar. Okay. So Stewie, we'll start at the bottom end, at the shallow end. So before I go any further, how many people have boats under 5 metres? So probably about 5 or 6 here. So, and I know you got a bigger boat. so, so those people, 5 metre, my little boat's 5 metres, and I'll fish out to about probably 80 metres deep in that on a really good day and good weather. But just give you some idea where you should go with your boat safely. Mostly fishing probably inside of the 36 or 36 and closer. Okay. So in that saying that, what we're talking about is using outfits probably in this sort of size, which is like a P2 to 3, so quite soft, and a little 4,000 or 5,000 size reel. Okay. That's in the spin outfit. So if you got something, 3,000 would be minimum, Stu, I guess.
Yeah.
But 4 or 5 is better. 6 is getting a bit bigger and close for that sort of light stuff, okay? So 4 or 5,000. The rod is what we call a P2, but it's sort of rated around that sort of 15 to 40 pound braid, okay? And you've got to use braid, of course. Use coloured braid too. We'll talk about that a bit later. It's a lot more helpful for you. And leader size, we're using about 30 pounds. Okay. I'd stack on at 200 metres at least of braid because you're fishing in that sort of 65 metres. It's good to have a bit of backup. So 200 metres of braid minimum, 300, but 200 is fine. And rod size at P1 to 3 sort of size. That's in the spin. In the overhead version, we're using something like this fellow here. So some people like to use overheads for slow pitch jigging, and some people like to use spin. This is a Shimano combo or Shimano reel. It's a Gen 2. It's like the best bang for buck slow pitch jigging reel on the market, I believe, for the price. And just on a little Gamoku P1 to 3 rod again. So very, very light. Okay. Still holds about 200 metres of 30 pound braid.
Yeah.
Around about. And again, 30 pound leader. So that's the sort of overhead version for that sort of fishing. So that outfit, I believe, both those outfits I've used right out to 100 metres deep. But that's definitely what you'd be using closer. Okay. If you've got that sort of thing. So we'll show you the next size up when we get to it. So we'll talk about the jigs now. I'm going to tell you about how to do it. So we're going to work it, as I said, in say under 50 metres and then under 80 metres and then over 80 metres. That's how we'll do it tonight. And then deeper. Stewie, so jig wise, so that 20, 30, 40 gram, mate?
Yeah, so general rule under ideal situations, which this is a Japanese theory where they do have ideal situations. Over here, we've obviously got more wind and more current, is 1 gram per metre. Over here, pretty much double it. So if you're in, say, 30 metres, use about a 60 gram jig on average. If you can bump it down and you go to that 1 gram per metre, general rule, 100% do it. The biggest thing is you don't necessarily want your jig to get to the bottom. A lot of the time, these better quality fish, snapper in particular, they'll school up off the bottom and they'll eat it on the sink. So you want to maximize your time in that higher water column to kind of increase the chances of getting bit before it gets down there. Yeah. On the bottom, you get a lot of red rock cod, Sergeant Bakers, all that rubbish stuff.
Everything
and it loves
eats your slow pitch jigs.
Yeah.
Everything. And that's the difference between using plastics and everything else. Plastics are great, but they don't fit into the water column better. You need a bit more weight in that jig head, whatever it may be. And because they're so big and you've got a bit of current, a little bit of wind, it's hard to keep in contact with the bottom. So slow pitch, you need to be in touch with the jig the whole time, whether it be free falling, you're sort of watching, feeling it go down, you get the tap on the way down, you know you got a hit on the way down, or whether it be on the lift up and strike, but the whole time you're in contact with the whole time. The plastic, it's more about watching how fast it comes off the reel. Don't worry, we use plastics too, but it's a different type of fishing. This is more in touch with it the whole time. But yeah, you got these little fellows in your bag, but that's the sort of size for that sort of sub 50 metres, which is around about the Stewie said 30 grams or 40 grams.
Yeah.
Is quite okay. There's an array of different jigs as well, which they all work, but the difference in a jig is the more wider it is, the more it flutters, the more narrow it is, the more it darts. Okay, so if you get a jig that's sort of that shape, which is like this one here, I'll pass around. So that one there, it's a bit of a dodgy one, this one, but and the center lines here sort of thing. They'll be generally smooth on one side. You see jigs are smooth on one side, and the other side might be angled. And the idea of that is that when it flips over, when it's falling, it flips over, it'll dart a bit, and then it falls back the other way, it'll then flutter a bit. That's how it works. And so that's that style of jig. And they can go quite wide in the shape too, something like that fellow there, which we'll pass around as well. Yeah. But if you go a jig that's more this sort of shape, which is a long skinny shape, I'll pass that around now, which is more, a little bit for the same weight, it's actually quite a fair bit longer. Sorry, like so. It's not going to do much fluttering, but it's going to do a lot of darting on the fall. It'll shoot away, it might shoot 2 or 3 metres to the left or to the right on the fall. And it's all your hits are generally on the fall, not so much on the lift. Okay, so it's a different type of jig. The small type of jig going to use for the mackerel, which we'll talk about a bit later. But that's still slow pitch style, but the jig's got a different action. Okay, so you're not jigging it fast, you're just using a different fall jig, so to speak. So that's the main 2 things to remember: skinny jig, radic action, flutter jig, fat jig, so flutter style. Thank you. That's true.
So the biggest thing as well with this jig shape or any jig, when you're sinking it down, just say you're in 100 meters, for example, and you've got fish 20 meters off the bottom. You've got 80 meters of dead water. You want to try to zip through that water as soon as you can. If you just put your jig in the water, particularly flutter jigs and slow type style jigs, they'll dart and kind of sink and have a mind of their own on the way down. It slows you down a lot. If you actually run your line through your fingers, if it's coming off a spin reel, or just slightly thumb the spool on an overhead, it'll sink quicker. With a little bit of resistance, it actually holds the jig straight and therefore it lets it plummet quicker. So if you've just got an object like that going like this, it's a lot of dead time. If you've got it with a little bit of resistance on it, it just goes straight down.
A bit like the anchor chain. So for those who anchor up, you should always actually take the weight of the anchor as it's going down. Otherwise, it gets all wallowy and out of shape. Sometimes the chain overtakes the anchor, whatever. Same deal with this. You want it to pull naturally, but under control.
Yeah.
Although in saying that, Stuart, when I'm at deep water, to get through that water column so quick, I actually hold my rod up like that and just let it rip out. Just so that.
Don't think it does much, but anyway.
Yeah,
all right. Yeah. You look pretty special with your rod hanging down in the water on the way down, but that's all right. Everyone's got to have a hobby. It's okay.
I'll give you a race later.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the first thing. Next thing is, a lot of people ask us, because a lot of them have just the one set of hooks on it. Do you tie it on the fat end of the lure or the skinny end of the lure? Or do you tie it where the hooks are on that end or the no end hook one? So we always tie it on the skinny end with the hooks on it, okay? So if you've got your hooks on the heavy end, I believe it's the wrong end. But it'll still catch fish, don't get me wrong, but I think it's better. It's going to be a total different action when you're pulling it from that end. It's going to like be a plumb bob and turn around all the time, right? But from the top end, it's going to always dart that same way all the time. So in this case scenario with this lure here, the hook's going to be, let's just say that's like the heavy end there, say, and that's the skinny end. So you put on the eyelet on the ends here, because a lot of people don't understand. A lot of the jigs you buy, most of them do come out with hooks on them, but that's because the way the Aussies want it, okay? And a lot of lures we have don't have hooks on them. These are good jigs, but Aussies want it rigged up, and that's why the wholesalers rig them up pre-rigged. But in generally speaking, the countries that know how to jig really well, they buy all their jigs unrigged, and they have to rig on the rod, and then they just attach the lure to the rig, if that makes sense. Yeah. So that's the proper way of doing it. and you just know which end to put the lure on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's easy as when you're
So that's
going out,
the
you
rig's
don't
on
have
there.
your jig hanging around and bashing your rods and all that stuff, bouncing off, hitting someone. But this is just easy. So the ideal way, you have a solid ring, never ever tie a line to a split ring. It's sharp, it can get caught in the split, it'll cut it, that type of thing. Doesn't matter if it's a loop knot or a solid knot or like a fixed knot. Tie to a solid ring and then put everything off that with a split ring.
Yep.
So
That's right. So, and then you have a little pair of split ring pliers, and you just quickly put the lure on the split ring.
Yep.
So in that case, that rig would go onto the skinny end here, and with the split ring on here, and your hook rigs are sitting off the solid ring on here. So the split ring's off that solid ring. That's actually the eyelet of the lure there, and then off that solid ring is your off your split ring. Sorry, is your hook rigs, if that makes sense. And that solid ring ties to your line, as Stewie said before, the knot on it. And this jig here, that generally, most long jigs, like some shapes, this is a bit bigger, but just to give you some idea, easier to see, that one you tie the hooks on that end, not that end, okay? Does that make sense? So onto the skinny end. So the proper way to do it, if you can get used to it, is with your rigs, and it's a lot less messy, and it's hard to have a jig set up on your rod that weighs 100 grams or 200 or 300 grams, and the boat's bouncing all the way out to the spot. It wrecks your rods, it wrecks everything. It gets actually generally goes swinging in the air and it'll hit you in the head while it's bouncing around the joint, right? So the objective is that's not on the rod at all. It's just the hook rigs on the rod. We get out to the spot, we just quickly put it on. As quick as that one, like that. It's on the ring. And yeah, you have them all set up in a little wallet, whatever. But get back to the long ones. Yeah, whatever the skinny end is the end that rig goes on again. The next thing about, because we're talking about little lures at the moment actually, but the length of how long do you make the hook rig to work? Personally, I like long. Longer the better. So I don't mind if it's even hanging down the bottom end, as long as there's no hooks on the bottom end, so it doesn't get caught up. But you don't want it to be, like, you know, you've got trebles on a hard body. If they're too big a treble, sometimes they'll get caught up, and therefore you've got to wind them all the way back in and unhook it, and you've got to take the trebles off. Same scenario with these guys. If you've got if you've got a long assist at the top, and some people, we do too, put another assist on the bottom because we're slow pitch jigging, sometimes it will get caught up. So try and keep them nearly just touching or not able to hook each other up. Okay, that's one little thing. But the only thing wrong with the rig we're talking about with using the hook rig on the rod is you can't use a lure with a bottom assist hook on it, because you can't, or you can, but it has to be pre-made, so therefore it takes away the whole theory of trying to store it with the...
Yeah, I always just put it on, and then after I finish using that lure, I'll take it off the bottom, take it off the rod, put it on the new bottom.
Yeah, with a pair of pliers, pretty quick.
It's pretty good. It's pretty quick.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Does that all make sense?
The best thing with doing it this way is you can just have all of your jigs in a wallet and you don't have any tangles. You just rip a jig out, put on your rod, and it's done.
That's it. Little ones aren't too bad, because it's like having a little metal on your lure and you're casting. It's the same deal. It's ready to set up on the rod. But once you start getting up to bigger bad boys, like this sort of thing, it's dangerous on the rod, bouncing around and smashing the rod as well. Your rods are very delicate. They're carbon, so they're not made for having jigs smash it. But anyhow, let's get back to the jigs. So why do we put hooks on the bottom? We'll go that's and on the top, so both. Because we're slow pitch jigging. So when we're fast jigging, real fast, like for keys and amberjacks, the problem is if you put it on the bottom, it doesn't get caught up on the hook on the top because it's too far away, but it gets caught in the line. So that's when you're jigging away, all of a sudden it goes heavy, you think, oh, you're 100 meters down. You've got to wind it all the way back up because it's caught up on the line. So when you're slow pitch jigging though, you can have the luxury of having hooks top and bottom because you're only slow pitching and it's only fluttering, okay? And it's not going to get caught on the line, very, very rare. So you can have hooks top and bottom. Do you get caught on the bottom of the time? No, you don't get caught on the bottom much at all. You will if you drop it by accident straight into a soft coral or something, then you get caught up. That's going to happen anyhow, top and bottom. So I'd be putting up with it. Is that all good? Kurt. Oh. Oh, sorry, Kurt. That's it. So, which one, sir? Oh.
Doug, you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, please ask questions.
We're from up north.
Mm.
Cairns,
Yep, going to do coral trout a bit later.
So
Yeah.
it says slow pitch jigging.
So slow pitch is the style. It's a style. So generally, when we're fast jigging, like we call it mechanical jigging, or whatever you call it, it's got different names. But that's when you're using like a very long type jig like that style there. But whether it be small or big doesn't matter. But you rip it into it really fast, like it's just going crazy, and it's very tiring. When we fish for trout and stuff like that, or red throat, doesn't matter. We drop the jig down to the bottom, and the technique is completely different. So lifting it up maybe 1, 2, and then actually not even winding it at all, dropping it back down again, and then maybe take a little bit of slack up, and then lift it again, and then even twitch the rod a bit, and that's when you normally always get hit by a trout on the second drop, guaranteed. 2 at a time in some places. But we did the same technique on the snapper here as well. Yeah, definitely on that one, guaranteed. Special bills.
Similar action to like flathead sort of fish?
Yeah, very similar,
More that way.
but
though.
you're not actually lobbing it back towards you. You're vertical.
Just keeping it down.
So if you ever jig like teabagging for flatties in the deep, up at say Kalinga Bank or somewhere up in the pin, so similar technique, very similar technique.
Yeah.
Just lifting, hopping it up, dropping it back down again. Take a little bit of slack up, and then hop it.
So
We'll go.
You need to be using your motor the whole time, eh?
You need to be vertical is probably the word for it. But the beauty is, Peter, that the braids these days are so thin, like so thin. So like if I was fishing in close, which I do on my rod there, I'm using like 20 or 30 pounds. So this is out to say 50 meters deep. And I'll pass this around. This is 20 pounds. It's just crazy, you know. So even if it's blown 15 knots and you got a 30 gram jig on, it's going to be nearly vertical.
Yeah.
Do you want to cut that off, Stu?
Nah, just leave it on.
Pass it on?
Yeah.
So that's 20 pound. I'll pass 30 pound as well. So 30 pound. 30 pound we use, guys, out to about probably 70 metres deep. Even in deeper, we use out the burleys too. So the beauty of using the thin braid is, one is you can get a little reel holds 200 or 300 metres, where if you go thicker braid, it doesn't have the capacity. But the main advantage is when you're actually fishing. It's so nice to use. So that's 30 pounds.
Otherwise, it just unravels everywhere.
Oh, well, it'll eventually only take 10 metres off.
So just to clarify, those
Yep.
the flutter jigs,
Yes.
which end are you tying on? They've got
So
usually
that-
got
so,
an eye- usually got
yeah,
an eye on the
They have an
end.
eye at both ends. So most of them have, not all of them, but some of them have a skinny end. So if they have a skinny end, that always goes on the skinny end. That's always priority. But that's the same both ends.
No, sure.
Similar. It is a real wide one. Like it's like that orange one that went around before. It's sort of like same, you know. It doesn't matter if it's that end or that end. But if you look at the internal, that's the same both ends as well. Sometimes they have a fatter end on that bottom. So it'll put in the skinny top end. But if it's the same and it's all perfectly the same, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Like you put on the eye end or the other eye end. So a lot of good jigs, again, have like squid eyes at the back, but the top end skinnies where your hooks go. So it's like a double-eyed thing, you know? So there's eyes at the top plus a painted dot at the back. Yeah, doesn't really matter, I don't think.
So leader.
Leader-wise? Yeah, so for this sort of fishing, what we're doing now in close, we're only using, and then I understand where you're coming from, because up your way it's only 50 metres deep, right? So it's the same scenario, but you're using a bit bigger jigs. So around 30 pounds in close here, and preferably fluorocarbon. Yeah, just FC fluorocarbon, 30 pounds. Quite an abrasion resistant type leader, but for you, mate, I'll be using 50 pound fluorocarbon. Okay. So how many people here get up to the reef fishing? How many people?
We
Go.
live down here.
You just moved down here.
We've been
Okay.
here a while.
Okay. Did you fish up there with jigs? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay
So
then.
Completely different to
Right.
fish the Gulf and up there.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll talk a little bit about jig and the reef a bit later, but I'll stick in close here so you'll go back to what we were talking about. So yeah, keep the jigs in that sort of, as Stewie said before, 50 gram max in close, in under 50 meters deep. Leader 30 pounds. Hook size. Look, everyone says, "Oh, the hooks are way too small. They're too light." Hey, they're not. They're not that easy to bend. They will if you're using like 50-pound braid and lock the drag up. They'll bend out. We're only using 20 or 30-pound braid. It's pretty hard to bend those little hooks, and they're normally hooked in the lips, especially with the. We'll talk a bit later about the canis jigs, like the Octo jigs. They're always hooked in the lips. Okay, but the normal soapage type jigs like the style here, they can be hooked down in the throat, but generally it's around the lips as well. So it's different to bait fishing where they're going to inhale it. They don't inhale it very often. It's normally they're an aggressive attack on the flutter, and they get hooked up because there's so many hooks sticking out of it, out of the jig, that it's very hard to miss the fish. So when you get a hit on a soapage jig, you generally hook up. You very rarely miss. You might feel a bit of a pump, but it might be bite in the middle perhaps. But on the little jigs, you never miss. You always get them. And then there are, so that's the two types of jigs, long and skinny. Then there's another jig that they call a shore cast jig, which people do use on the shore as well. So you can actually hop this jig. So on this type of one, it has a cyst hook on the top and then a treble on the bottom. So you can actually cast this one. So if you're in, say, 18 fathom reef that's 30 meters deep, you can actually cast it, say 50 or 80 meter cast. Again, keeping in that 30 to 60 gram size, a bit heavier, and let it sink down. And then you flathead type fish, where you hop it and then take up the slack, and hop it and take up the slack, and actually work it back towards you. That's another craze that's happening over in Japan, those areas. It's starting to catch on here. We've got guys actually using these off the rock wall and catching fish in the seaway on them as well. The only hassle is we have a lot of coral and a lot of sponge and stuff like that. They do get hooked up pretty bad because they've got treble on the bottom. So
with the smaller jigs, if the current's going and all the rest of it, are you still trying to throw it up to come back towards the boat, or do you just...
If I was, say, if I was spot locked with the electric motor, or I was at anchor, and the current's at the front of the boat coming down this way, I'm going to probably drop it at the back first and see how far it goes down, and then sort of calculate, okay, it's sitting 6 meters on the boat, I'll cast it up sort of 10 meters and try and hop it, and then just hop it that last bit past the back of the boat. And then if it gets out too far, so they will hit on a bit of like the angle as well, by the way. Yeah, but after it gets a bit too far, I'll wind it back up and do the same again. Yeah. If I'm drifting though, like Peter said before, I'll back up every now and then, particularly in the deep water on pearlies and stuff. Yeah. But in closer, you have the luxury of thin line, and you can actually go a bit heavier, and it's shallow, so it's nearly vertical the whole time. Yeah. So any questions on that at all?
You said when they're sitting up off the bottom and you're dropping down, a little thumb on the line, keep it straight. Will you then, watching your colours, will you stop it above the school and then drop it to flutter through, or will you just go straight to the bottom and pull it back up?
I'll stop it a bit. Like I talk to people here about when I'm using bait jigs. So when I'm using a bait jig, it's like a micro jigging, right? So when it's going through the bait school, I know how the bait's at, say, at 20 metres and I'm 32 metres deep. The bait starts at 20. When that second colour's finished, at that point there, I'll stop it as it's going out. Stop. And it's still going down, but it's getting action on the way down, and I'll hook up a lot of the time. Same with the jigs. And actually, Shimano do the custom F series. Have you got one? Well, Stewie's happens to have one because he's got one. So this particular little reel here has that function on it for the fall. So when you know the fish are sitting in that, so 10 metres off the bottom in a 5 metre window, at that point as the jig's going down, you stop it and jig it on the fall. You push the lever forward, back. So it's jigging down, and you get a lot of fish on the way down. But if that's not the case, if you did go through, then obviously work it back up through it. Yeah. But fish will go down to it. The fish are 30% in the water column off the bottom, they'll 100% go down to your jig. They'll see it. They'll obviously see it and they go, I don't know. I don't ask them the question, but on the sound, you can see them actually move to your jig. Yeah.
Rather hook them away from the bottom if possible.
Oh yeah, I know. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I normally bomb it straight to the bottom and then work up.
Yeah. Up's always easier.
Only because it's easier.
Yeah.
So like when you're sinking down, you've always got a bit of belly in your line. You don't really know where you are. You might have a bad undercurrent. It might wash it out or wash it forwards even. It's just hard to know where you are. So if you start stopping on the way where you think you are, you might only be down 30 meters in say 80 meters, but it might be 20 meters that way. Yes. So it's a hard one.
There's one thing I could recommend when you slow pitch jigging is different to soft plastic. Soft plastic, you're trying to emulate like a floating pilly going down, waffling down, and they're going to come up and grab it, right? With these fellows, the heavier, sometimes the better. So if you've got a little bit of wind, a little bit of current, whatever it may be, like Stu's saying, or bell in your line, mid-current, just put on a heavier jig and it'll still catch the fish, definitely. Yeah. So switch. So if you go 30, it's not hitting the bottom or whatever it is, throw on a 60 or an 80 and it'll just work. If the fish are there, they'll smash it. Yeah. Okay. And sometimes out in 100 meters, when we try to use 80 to 130 grams, we'll put on a 200 gram and fish it slow pitch. Okay, so now the questions on the jigs. I was going to show you one more thing here. That's a little version of a long skinny dot jig. So how many guys, quick on the mackerel while we're in close, how many guys have been chasing mackerel recently? Probably a few of you have. So you all know on the sounder, when you see mackerel on the school, it's just lines, right? So the slower the boat's going, the more easy it is to see the lines and the mackerel show up. If your boat's doing like 6 or 10 knots, you may see the bait. You may see the odd mackerel on the bait. But when you're sitting still or slow trolling baits over for mackerel, you have the luxury of seeing the mackerel. You actually see them on the sounder. So say the screen's split in half, and this is the bottom over here, and this is a bit zoomed up sort of thing. And a bait school might show up like this, like so. And you may, if you're going fast, you may see like fish like that above it. But when you're going slow, this is zoomed in now. When you're going slow, that little line will become like this sort of thing. Like you'll see them like that. Okay, sorry, man. So the baits are like a solid ball, but the mackerel will be like so. When you see that sort of thing, there might be some up here higher as well. That's when you want to use those more longer, skinnier jigs and just jig it down through them. Don't go slow flutter style. You've got to go a little bit faster, so a little bit more faster. Okay, whatever action it may be, and bring it up through the mackerel. You'll see the mackerel actually, if you're going slow, you'll actually see the mackerel come up to your jig as you're pulling it up. Okay, and the ones at the top here, you may get a second hit of those, but if you flutter and do the slow stuff, you get bitten off every time. We don't mind selling the jigs, but you're going to get bitten off, and I hate it. I think it was Jack the other day. I'll tell you now. We're at the blocks. Has anyone been fishing the blocks of mackerel yet? North of Seaway? There's a few mackerel there. Doggy, spotties, and Spanish. But anyhow, and it's easy to jig saying 20 minutes deep. But I think Jack lost 5 in a row. 5 jigs in a row. So we gave up on that idea. But yeah, well, we got ones. One's a spotty. It's a decent spotty. But that's the sort of scenario you want to see to jig for mackerel. And jig through them. Okay? But a bit faster. Don't just do the twitch thing, because it'll get bitten off.
How does the cord of the assist hook go with their teeth?
Yeah, so good thing. It's actually not too bad, and that's a good question, matey. You can get, so the cord's not like braid. It's actually like a
like Kevlar.
Yeah, Kevlar Dyneema type stuff, and it's I'd say probably 5 to 6 times more stronger than braid. We do have wire assist jig hooks, but the trouble is you can't get little wire assist jig hooks because it's too fat, if that makes sense. So when we go out, say Wahoo or something like that, around a fad or something, you're using a jig that might be that sort of size. We've got jig hooks downstairs and a wire assist that fit there perfect, but they won't fit on the little jigs in close. So what do you do there? Good question. And that's why we lost 6 jigs the other day. But, look, we do have some new wire downstairs that's tieable wire. They use it fishing overseas for hairtail and stuff like that. And I reckon you can snell it. So you could probably tie an assist hook on it and use that. And it's supposed to be, obviously it's been wire, it's going to be a lot better. Yeah. But mackerel the trouble is, those sort of fish they're catching is only that big, where our mackerel could be 15 kilo Spanish. And we'll nail probably through 30-pound wire. Most of the time, yeah, they do. They'll snip it still.
A mackerel will chew through wire easily.
100%, that's exactly right. That's what I'm saying, exactly. So, but if you went 60-pound wire or 40-pound wire on a big Spanish, it's harder for them to bite through. Single strand's the best stuff for mackerel, but the problem is that single strand doesn't have the action of the hooks on the lure. The hooks have got to be like part of the action. That's why a lot of hooks these days are dressed with that tinsel, whatever. It's emulating a little bait fish around the fish, if that makes sense. It's not representing a hook. So if we put hooks on a wire, it's going to look a bit yucky. Okay, it's all part of the parcel. Yeah. There's another thing too, which I'll just quickly tell you about, and I didn't know this until recently as well. Why they put blades on jigs? So the blades emulate a bait fish around the jig. Does that make sense? So they just eat the whole thing. Where that's why they put blades on jigs and other lures as well. So the hooks that come these days are generally dressed with tinsel, lumo, and whatever it may be. That's because it's emulating bait fish. Yep, also attracts fish. Okay, the other thing I want to tell you about before we go to the Octo jigs is you can also use like a soft vibe, like a squid trex type thing, and do exactly the same style of jigging, okay? And it flutters, it does everything, it vibrates on the way up where the jig doesn't vibrate on the way up, they flutter on the way down, this will flutter on the way up and down. So if anyone used squid trex before out in the reef, done all right? These are pretty good. Any questions on the little jigs? We're going to do the little ones first. I just want to tell you about Octo jigs. So Octo jigs are like this type of thing here, like an Octo ball with a skirt on it. And the hooks on here are generally smaller again, but they're tough little hooks and they always are lip hooked. These things are the gun. So if you're snapper fishing it in the next few months with snapper coming on, you should always have one of these sitting in the rod holder just doing its thing. A very soft tip rod, okay? And it'll just catch fish. We use them obviously by hand, but if you're a bait fisher and you're going to give lures a crack, the first way to start giving lures a crack is to put one of these to the bottom. Why not just one turn, sit in the rod holder, a little bit bigger than normal. So if you're in, say, 50 metres deep, you might put on a 60 grammer or even an 80. And so it actually gives heaps of action when the boat's going up and down. And they just lit up. Okay. Anyone add to that, Stu?
I think if you're going to dive into this type of style of fishing, you definitely need a softer rod, like more bendy. Only reason is we'll pass one around, but look at the size of hooks on it. They're tiny. And as Dougie said, they always get caught just in the meaty part of the mouth and stuff like that. A, the hook's that small that it'll straighten really easy. If your rod's too heavy or if you fish too much drag. And B, if it's quite stiff, it'll just rip it out on the bite. So, yeah, softer rod, the better.
Do you work them as well? Or are they always...
If you're going to work them pretty slow.
But they have their own action. So the skirt on them flutters like crazy. So it just looks like it's natural in the water to the fish, I think. They're self-catching. Yeah. But we do work on when we're fishing them. Yeah, we do.
Went up to 70 and 70 and we killed it on those.
You did, yeah.
Yeah.
We have.
Yeah,
We've caught thousands. But mate, give it a crack. Keep persisting out here. I know they're good up there, but out here they're really good too. Yeah. So the first one coming around is actually that one's changed around now. The green one's actually Japanese one, so it's a bit more expensive, being made in Japan, but it's a very good one. But so the jigs, these jigs here, again, same deal, 1 gram per metre. 20 metres, 20 grams, whatever it may be. Most of them, unfortunately, don't start until 40 grams. Okay. We do have little tiny ones
Some
downstairs.
have two holes, so you put the line through
Yeah, so some of them, the line passes through the centre, so the ball actually moves up and down on the line. It's a bit more action. And other ones that you tie directly to the head, and it's fixed.
But some of the ones where the line goes through, there's two alternatives.
Oh, okay.
It's different action on the sink.
Yeah, different action on the sink. That's correct. Yeah, different.
Because the
you can turn it around the other way.
off-centre.
It's similar to the flutter jigs. One end's bigger than the other end, heavier. Yeah, and there's actually a new one out now that's maybe the one that went around before the green one. It is that green one, I think. It's got a big hole in it.
Yeah.
So that one's very rare. That's a Japanese custom one, but so that one actually, when you lift it up, it actually creates bubbles, and the fish want to know what's going on. Do you know about tungsten as well, folks? So tungsten jigs are next level as well for current and like windage and stuff like that. So the profile is half the size for the same weight. The price is triple though. So tungsten's expensive. We do have a few tungsten ones down there, but so the tungsten, like a 40 grammer, was actually, for example, is that tungsten?
I don't know.
It looks like it's a weight. Anyhow,
Just with these, when you're saying using a softer rod, what size rod would you be using?
you P1 to 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, P1 to 3. So
Probably more P1.
yeah.
That's super light kind of.
Looks like a
Yeah,
nude.
we actually have them downstairs as well in overhead end spin. There's a they're like rabu or things like that. They're Japanese names, but they're super soft tip. They're like a whiting nibble tip, you know.
Yeah. Right, so you
Yeah, but they've got balls in the bottom, so you can run 30-pound braid and not break your rod, you know.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
Where if you use a nibble tip, it'll just snap in half.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, but it'd work. It'll hook up, but it just won't work after that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So get rid of the tungsten. So something like that size, that's 30 grams, but that was tungsten to be 60 grams. That's what I'm trying to say. So the profile's a lot smaller, you can fish a lot easier, but you pay the price. And with us out here, like I think you're fishing sort of sand or in that sort of not so reefy areas. I've used in tungsten because it's going to be a lot easier to use. But out here with coral and stuff on the bottom, it's expensive. Okay. And the mackerel love them as much as the other ones too. So at this time of the year. Get back to the ball jigs though. There's an array of different type of jigs and different shapes, which we'll probably cover more when we get to the pearl perch section, but they're all different shapes and sizes. But again, under 50 metres, as Stewie said, you catch everything on. You catch species I've never even seen out here or caught on bait. Like cods, different cods and different wrasses, and wrasses love them. And so do tusk fish as well. You catch big pearlies in close. You don't normally get many pearlies in close here on bait, but you will get on those things out in 50 metres, 45 metres deep. So if you wanted to do one thing tonight and take it away and give this sort of fishing a go, the easiest way for you to catch a fish is going to be on a ball jig before you use that style jig. Would that be true, Stu?
Yeah.
Guaranteed. As you said, it's so easy to catch a fish when they're on. Yeah. Anyhow, but give it a crack. Okay, next thing is, Stewie, we're going to go now to, any questions on enclosed? Because that's about it for enclosed. We're going to head a bit wider. Yes?
What colour, Stewie?
Yeah, so, okay, this is debatable.
See, in close, you still got a fair bit of light penetration down deep. So I like more shiny stuff. Get a bit of flash, a little bit of glow is always good. You can buy assist hooks with the glow tinsely stuff on them, and probably looks like it's more dancing around it. Yeah, it's pretty divided.
I use a lot of silicone type skirts on top of my float lining for snapper with baits, filters and stuff. I use a skirt on top. And I find the best colours for doing that is like Sue said, a Luma or a natural sort of cleary, silvery type colour. But I love orange. And the orange for me works in 10 meters and it works out in 300 meters. So I'm an orange guy, red or orange. It works really well. And it's one color, it doesn't matter where you are with it, it works. So if that's any help to you. Yeah. Okay, and then I'm going to get to 65. Oh, sorry.
The larger balls, how big of a hook size would you run on
Yeah.
the larger balls?
So the larger balls, say you're using a 150 gram or something like that, which is getting up this sort of size or this size here. I'll pass this around a bit. We're going to pass this around for the pearlies, but you can see the size in that, and that's as big as you want to go. You maybe go to like in, because again, these hooks are like different sizing to the real sizing. So what might be a 2.0 is like probably a size 2 in another brand. So it's very hard to say, but in sizing, if you look at the one coming around now, it's probably big enough for anything up to probably 8 or 10 kilo fish. Yeah.
What we're going with hook size in, like, this is for that octopus style. It's where a fish kind of will hone in on it and try to grab a few tentacles or something like that. So you want the hooks hidden in it a bit. On the standard metal jig, I always try to make sure the hook is wider than the jig. So just say if you've got a really short jig but it's real wide, I use a bigger hook because if they grab the jig and the hook's narrower than the jig, they'll just slide off it. So you want like you want it exposed. So if they grab it, they have to get hooked. Yeah.
But the thing is with the Octo type jigs, the jig is, the hooks are always below it. And they're normally
they're like chasing it up.
Upwards, so you can't miss, even though they're a lot smaller than their head. So yeah, that's how it works. Okay, we'll head out to a bit deeper. So those of you with 5 meter boats, you're still okay out to 65 or 70 meters if the weather's good. Not when it's bad though. But that's a lot more productive area for fishing sort of stuff. So you certainly catch Sergeant Bakers and Grinners, unfortunately, because they love these jigs. But you're not going to get as many. So you're going to get more snapper, you get more trade Jew, pearlies obviously, and parrotfish and tuskies and whatever, and cods like Maori cod and whatever it might be. So all we do is we up the ante. As Stewie said before, you've now gone from like 20 or 40 gram jigs now to 60 to 80 gram jigs because you're fishing in that 65 to 75 meter mark. And we just up the ante. But if it's windy or a bit of current, then we'll double it. We'll fish up to 120 gram jigs, or 130 maybe, in 36 fathoms, if we have to. Does that make sense? So just remember that. And the technique is very similar. The thing is, though, we don't get, as Stu said before, we don't get many fish between, say we're in 68 metres deep and the fish are between 55 and 68, where the bait is and there's a few snapper and whatever else there. Above 55, the only thing you're going to catch up to maybe 35 metres, halfway in the water column, is probably going to be a kingfish or maybe an amberjack and maybe a snapper. But you're going to delete all the bottom demersal type fish. So it won't come that far up. So we're in close, they'll come up pretty high because it's so shallow. So you're going to get less fish, but you get better quality fish. And it goes on as you go deeper, it gets better again. So all we're doing is get a bit bigger. The outfit, I'm still using the same outfit. But what I will do is I might, if there's a bit of current and I have to go a bit heavier, I might go up to something in that style there. It's a bit, just one size bigger. Okay, so that's a little Oshia 2000, probably our best-selling high-end reel, and that's on a Venom, but that's a PE 2.5, but it's actually, I'm running PE3 on there, I think, PE3, which is about 55, 60 pound in a good braid.
Does everyone understand the whole PE thing? No. Okay, perfect. So PE is a Japanese line thickness rating. You walk into a shop in Japan and you say, I want PE1, because they're precise people. They say the rod is best designed with this thickness of line. So instead of buying a 2 to 4 kilo rod, you buy a PE whatever to whatever.
We all work on
we work on
and
pounds.
poundage.
They work on thickness.
They use the thickness.
Thickness is more precise.
Yeah.
To break it down to like us Westerners, PE1 is roughly the thickness of 10 pound. In a good braid, it's double, so it's 20 pound. PE5, roughly the thickness of 50 pound, it's 100 pound in a good braid. So chuck a 0 on it and double it.
Yeah, it
Bit
is.
of maths, but yeah. But that's the easiest way to break it down. But it's just hard because there's two different ways of buying it. They work on thickness, we work on poundage or breaking strain.
And to confuse it even more, a lot of the brands, like especially the American brands, they rate their line at a different knot type strength. They rate their line on a straight pull, I think it is.
Yeah.
Where it breaks straight pull, not on the knots. Where
no, it's not strength.
Not strength, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, that's the opposite way.
Not strength.
Not strength.
Yeah.
Where the Japanese straight pull.
Yeah.
That's right. So when you're using an American braid line, you bought it and it's PE2 and it's 20 pound, which it will be, it'll probably break at about 30 pounds or 35, maybe even 40, which is similar to the Japanese rating because they're PE2 and they're saying 40 pound. But that's where it pops for them on a different pulling scale.
Good thing is Americans don't use PE, so you'll never see it on the packet. So don't worry about it.
Yeah. Anyhow,
but
it is what it is.
It's hard to get your head around, but once you get your head around, it's not too bad.
Yeah. It's confusing more. And then they use line numbers instead of poundage as well on the line, on the leader. Okay, Stewie, so we're going to use the same type of jigs, whether it be a flutter style or a long skinny style, like that type of thing there. That's a long skinny style. And we can still slow pitch jig that. And we've got hooks on top and hooks on the bottom. And we're just not doing it too fast because the hooks will hook up. And we're using, that's around about 200, I think, or 150 grams. So that's the maximum we use in about 70 meters, 150. The Octo jigs, we're going to stick with around about, I like about 60 to 100 max.
Yeah, Octo jigs are pretty compact. They sink pretty quick. Yeah, they're just like a ball sinker, pretty much. So it sinks pretty good to the bottom.
Getting back to the colours though, we've learned this recently about colour spectrum, what changes colour. Tell us, Judy.
I've always liked black.
Because everyone asks about colour, what's
yeah.
the best colour? And it's a very conflicting thing. A lot of people have their favourite colours, right?
Yeah.
But we've learned.
Yeah, I started using black stuff probably, I don't know, 4 years ago.
I think it's one of our customers only buys black. And he's
he bought black.
Jigger.
And he was
He'll
pretty
buy
good.
20 at a time, just black only.
Yeah.
And
So I started using black and started catching good fish on it where other colours weren't working. And like I'm jigging in 150 metres, so it's pretty dark down there. And I'm still using black. No glow on it, no nothing. Have you ever seen, like on Facebook, there's always a video of a diver going down with coloured beads and they change colours and this colour disappears or whatever. Black is supposedly the only colour that'll cast a silhouette or have a body to it on the surface and on the bottom. Doesn't change. So it's pretty visible because it's a solid mass.
But it's hard to tell people that because they think black disappears once it gets dark. Yeah. So it's like a silhouette effect, I guess.
Yeah.
The light's up there, it's blocking the light and becomes more visible.
Yeah.
So as we were saying before, we've got guys that buy only black now. Yeah. We don't sell many, but
no.
But Stewie's been testing
good fish
them.
catcher.
But I'm still an orange guy, orange or pink or something like that.
The colours disappear at different depths, yeah?
Particularly red and orange.
Yeah, red.
So when will that disappear?
Red and orange is like 20 metres, I think.
Yeah,
it's pretty close.
Yeah, not even. So if you ever catch a snapper or something like that, it looks white until you actually get right to the top and it goes to red colour, right? And coral trout's the same. Coral trout look sort of dark colour until they get near the top and all of a sudden they're red. Yeah, so and that's why coral trout, you get the brown ones up in the shallow water and the red ones are in the deeper water because they don't look red down deep, if that makes sense. But they're brown, they'd be more easy to see and get eaten. That's how I think it works.
So why are you still going for orange?
Yeah, that's right. Because it's a mental thing. It works well.
He's stubborn. He doesn't like change.
I like brown and I like red. That's my favourite colour actually in jigs. But yeah, it's just so give it a colour. It's just personal choice, but there are theories and there are things that do make it work better for you. Catch more fish.
You're right with the black though. You can sometimes see the whale in the dark.
Oh, it's correct. Yeah. Right. Yeah, right. I never thought of that. Yeah, right. Yeah. It's silhouette effect apparently. Yeah. There's even in 200 or 300 meters, there's still a little bit of light in the water, and so it becomes visible, right?
So the fish are below it, looking up to the.
Correct.
and
The water's looking up to the light.
They see the shadow. basically.
That's correct. Yep, that's right. The shadow of silhouette. Yeah, that's right. Okay. So do we change our action in that shallow water? Look, Stu and I have similar action, and it's just personally how you want to do it. But if I was going to fish out and say 65 meters with 100 or 80 gram Octo jig, so I'll drop it out. I'll just let it fall. I'll probably, this is a bigger one, wrong one. I'll let it fall as quick as I can let it fall. So whether that means undoing this one here, there's a little adjustment on the side there, or holding your spin reel down a bit tighter so it comes off easier, a bit stiffer, vertical, sorry. I like to get down there a little bit different, Stewie. I hit the bottom, I take up the slack on the line, and if I'm using overhead, I hold it with two hands. I have a habit of holding it on the reel, so I'm close to the handle, and then on the behind here. And my action is normally like, that's all I do, particularly with an Octo jig. Then I'll drop it back down again, and then if there's a little bit of slack I'll take up, I'll take it up, and then I'll do two, maybe even three. Generally two is enough. And then I had that habit, like I said to you before, the other time over there, I shake it like that, and then I drop it back down. And the guys at the reef taught me that, and it works out here very, very, very good. But that's the technique. And when you do that shake, I think the fish has seen it first. If they don't hit it by then, they'll follow it up. And then as soon as you shake it, and that first fall, the first little bit of fall, it's an instant hit if there's a fish there. Has anyone tried that technique before? If you have, it works. Give it a go.
So you're only just building this up for
Oh,
meters. You're not going all the way to the top.
No. If I don't, it doesn't happen very often. If I don't get hit by that time, I might come up another one more go.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
It's just a matter of doing that action.
Yep.
Until you get it.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you're not drifting too fast or too much, I'll drop it straight back down again. Hit the bottom, do the same technique again, and then drop back down.
So if you're drifting a bit too quick, you
Yep.
reel it back up and kind of reset.
Yeah, correct. If like even at
Or you
100 meters, back up the
on it.
boat if you
Oh,
can. Yeah.
Yeah.
So always back up the boat first if you can, because you're on the zone and the fish are about to come up. You don't want to miss out, because by the time you wind up, drop back down, you've missed it.
Yeah.
So, sometimes if you do a drift, I want to talk about it a bit later, but when you're drifting, you need to be able to. It's so important to be on the money. You got to be on the money, and whether that means telling all your mates got their lines out and they get peed off because you've said just keep your lines to water, I'm going to drag us across 5 meters that way with the boat. Well, their lines go that way. It's just the way it is. But they're going to get fish straight away if you land on it. Sometimes you've got to be right on it. Yeah, so important. Spin rod, exactly the same technique, but you just you're holding it a little bit differently. So I don't know how you hold your overhead, Stewie. How do you hold your overhead, mate? Do you want to show them that way?
I'll just hold it. I never really thought about it. I just hold it like that. That's it.
Same technique.
Straight up.
Similar
Yeah.
technique. Yeah.
Action's a little bit different, but my action's more dependent on the jig. So if I'm using something with less action in it, so say longer and skinnier, you got to do more to it. If I'm using something shorter and fatter with more action, more sinking action, you do less to it. So change your action to the jig, those little things like that. I've never seen squid rip off 1,000 miles that way real quick. They might if something's chasing them, but something's not always chasing them. So use it a bit shorter, a bit smaller action, less action, slow it down a bit. These work really good in the rod holder, and that's no action at all. A little bit of boat movement, and that's it. So you don't have to do much to them, but yeah, general metal jigging, a little bit of action, but not heaps.
Yeah, I think fish think that slow pitch jigs are stupid fish. It's an easy prey. Where if you're doing a fast mechanical type jig where you're pulling away really fast, they have to work hard and chase that jig and hunt it down. And it's a totally different bite, different fight. So when you hook a fish up on high speed mechanical type jigging, like real fast, the fight is a very aggressive fight, very hard. Even for the same type species, whether it be snapper or king, it doesn't matter. But when you hook them up on slow pitch, it's a very easy fish. It's not. It still goes hard, but it's not the same. Not the same fight for me. Not for you.
Depends what fish it is, I suppose. Yeah. If you get a kingy on any jig, they're going to fight hard.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. Yeah, mate.
So having a jig with an electric motor, like on spot,
Yeah.
is that successful or not so much?
As long as there's not too much current.
Yeah, it's better drifting. Like Electrics are really good in wind, not
Yeah,
current.
in wind, 100%, mate. Use it definitely. But when you've got current, it becomes the complete opposite. It's hard work, and drifting was more direct.
Yeah, your lines blow out the back too much.
Yeah, we always say to our customers, and we obviously know ourselves, that it's definitely a wind advantage for the electric, but and not a current advantage. Yeah.
You can jig with it and you can do it really well, but you actually need to go with the current at the same speed as the current.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So you can drop your jig, and as that jig's drifting with the current, you're drifting at the same speed. But the problem is you burn a spot in like 3 times the time. Yeah. Because you just say you've dropped your jig there, instead of your jig going like this and you just backing up to it, you're like this as it goes down. So it's hard.
Some reefs you can do it, like up the reef up at off north of, it's on the thing, I think, north of the jumping pin, that 36 fathom reef up there. That's a great reef for doing that.
It's quite long,
and you can just beeline your angle and just work it. Not even worry about the motor, just work it all the way through. You get like a 2K run. Yeah, so that sort of place you do. But as Stewie says, a place for it. But yeah, but no, good call, mate. Yeah. If you got it, take advantage of it. That's it. So we've got 60 to 120 grams on the ball jigs. There is another type of jig too. There's always new jigs coming out. This is like a Octo jig, swing jig, if that makes sense. So it's an Octo jig with a flutter type appeal to it, with a blade. So it's got all the herbs and spices on it. Okay. So I'll pass my big around so I get some idea how it looks. These are only new out. Again, Japanese design. How many times I've said that tonight? But Stu had a bit with me. But those guys are just the leaders in it, right? So we're learning from them all the time. But this thing does everything. Have a look. It's a dire product, great product. That's probably it for in close. Oh, sorry, the 36s. Just one thing I would say in 36 fathoms though, look for bait, look for fish on the bait, and hold and mark that position. You should always be like, at this time of the year, you should probably have a deep dive out when you're just cruising around looking at the bottom. If you can just go for if I go for like, say from here to not even Harbour Town, halfway to Harbour Town, I'll have a lure out, especially in close. But out there as well, because we got wahoo at this time of the year, so wahoo's very good, and dollies as well, and just put a couple of divers out the back while you're sounding around. Okay, but you're marking the bottom. Once you mark the bottom, so on the GPS, let's just say that position there is here, and that position there is here, and that position there is here. You need to see, as soon as it comes up to here, and you see that fish might have been over here last time you were out, and that's that mark. But now there's nothing on that area. They're on the forward of the current, or whatever it may be, it's moved them around a bit. So you need to remark your spot there, wherever it may be, where they are now. And don't drift over that way. You want to drift over this way, depending on the current and that. But if you have a habit of, obviously I use my track lines all the time, but if you have a habit of not altering off your marks, one, you'll fish it out, or two, you won't understand that reef, how it really works in different situations. So you need to understand their territory, what they're doing. So mark it. That one there, same deal. If the fish were last time here on this one, which is that one there, and they're not there now, don't even worry about it. Keep it there, but move on to here. That's where they are. This time they're on here. So fish that one first, and the current's not going like that way like it normally does. Then skip this middle one and go straight to here. Start your drift here if your drift's going that way. Start your drift here and work that spot there where the fish are. So a lot of people, they just don't do that. People, they go out, they see the fish, and then they'll just drop the line straight away, even while the momentum's still going the wrong way, downstream even, And then you pull up and you get your lines down, put back the sounder, and you're probably over here somewhere. You've missed all that. You've got to get it right, really dialed in. and it's a lot of work. And a lot of people say, I take people out, and they'll say you're spending too much time looking at the sounder, but it's not. It's a bit like live scoping. You've got to dial in the fish and know exactly how fast you're drifting, what angle you're drifting on, and then take it into to make it work. So please don't waste your time doing the wrong thing. Sorry, mate.
Would you drop your jig straight through the middle of the bait ball, or would you keep it around the edges of
I'd like to start up from it a little bit and then drop it back through it. Pull it back, lift it back up through it. Sorry. Yeah. Never look. If you had no current and it was the perfect scenario of 0 knot winds, then maybe I'd drop straight down through it. But if you get a second drop, so say you started here and the drift is going that perfect drift that way that day, and I've had to go through there, maybe got a fish on, and then I've got the fish in, I'm back here somewhere, I'll just drop my line straight away because I know going by projection I'm on with my track, I'm going to nail the next drop. So then I might end up dropping through them on the way down that next time. Yeah, but if I'm going ski with this way, I'll either pull the lines up here once I've got the fish in and go back around, maybe have one more drift and see how I go, or I'll come back and have a go here and get that through that one. Yeah. That doesn't matter if you're in 20 metres deep or 300 metres deep, it's the same scenario. And it's really important when you first get out there, as I always say, once you've trolled your lures and found out where your fish are, and before you even drop a line down, now your mates are eager. My kids are always eager to drop their lines down. I just say, wait, wait. And just do a drift and zoom right into 100 metres and see exactly what path you're taking on your track line. Like I keep saying, your GPS should be just like spaghetti, but change the colour every time there's a different species around. So if you're chasing snapper, change it to yellow colour. You know, that's the snapper time. There's mackerel, change it to purple. That's the way I do mine. It becomes a mess, but you sort of got some idea what you're chasing at the time. You would have saw that, Kurt, different colours. Yeah. So yeah, do that. Okay. So anything else on the 36s?
I think so.
So how many people here get out to the 50 fathom reefs? Okay, and most of you guys have boats 5 meters or bigger. So even on a good day, like a really good day, if you know the wind's not going to blow over 10 knots and it's going to be 4 to 6 knots or 8 knots, as long as you've got the fuel capacity and you've got a 5 meter boat, you're fine to do that as well. And the safety gear, of course. Preferably with someone else going with you though.
When you said the fuel capacity, how much fuel are you looking at on the 5 metre?
Yep. So if you've got a 5 meter boat, say you got 90 horsepower on the back or 75. Look, you'd probably burn to go out the 50s and back and all day, or say half a day out there. I'm guessing around 60 litres.
It'd be pretty close, yeah, 60 to 70. Yeah.
So
roughly.
most of your tanks in that size boat are only 60 litres, right? So you need to take a 20 spare with you.
It's really hard because if it blows up and then you're half on the plane, half off the plane coming home, you're going to burn more.
Yeah.
If you catch heaps of fish, you've got more weight in your boat. Like there's a fair few contributing factors to it. It's hard.
Yeah. And on a good day, you might use 40 litres. So
yeah.
I had a 4.8 metre Quintrex Hornet with a 75 on it. And to go out to the 50s and back, most times it's about 45 litres.
You just want to pick a perfect kind of day.
Yeah, I only went out and it was calm. Yeah. And,
I always hear about 18s, 36s, 12s.
yeah. Fathoms.
Maybe depth, but is there a shock reef that's in those areas that goes north?
It is. So our Gold Coast has 3 main like reef attributes to it. So there is other reef in between, but secret reefs, not secret reefs, but not well
Less
known.
publicised
Less
reefs.
publicised reefs. So I'll try and get over here so you can all see, but this is Point Lookout, North Stratty, South Stratty, Seaway, Burley Heads, Tweed Heads. And it's sort of like this big bay, okay? And the it's not a straight line, it's sort of curved with it. So the 12 fathom reef is generally about 20 metres deep, and it's sort of in blotches, if that makes sense. kind of burly mermaid Kira, and it's like that. Okay, and then the next one's the 24 fathom reef, or there's 18 fathoms as well, but 24 is the most, which is around 45 meters. So it's fairly pronounced like that sort of thing, but there will be gaps in it where there's a lot of sand, sort of thing. And then we have the 36 fathom reef. It tends to be getting a little bit more straighter, and then the 50 fathom reef is probably even a bit more straighter. 36 and 50s down at Tweed are very close together. So only like out here it's 20k distance from 36 to 50s, but down at Tweed it's only about 8 or 6. So that's why it gets narrow down here. So
quicker from the Tweed bar?
100% it ran. If you're going to go fish, say 36s off Tweed, it's out here it's 20 k's. Down there it's about 12, I think. And the 50s is about 22k, where it's 40 out here. So, and like I've been down off Tweed in 200-300 meters deep, electric reel fishing, and there's 14-foot tinnies next to me. But they're only 18k or 20k from the bar, you know. So it's like fishing 36s out here. And it's the same up here as well. So you can see that gets narrower up this end of town as well, off Point Lookout. So those of you who fish off, how many guys from Brisbane here? So you'll know when you get up to Brisbane, if you're fishing, say, Sevens Reef off Lookout, and then you go out to, say, the 30s or 65 metres, they call it square patches, I can't remember what it's called. It's quite close. And then from there to 100 metres, or the wave buoy off Lookout, it's further south, but it's close. It's about another 8k or 10k. So you're talking from Lookout out to 50 fathoms, 100 metres, is about probably 18k again. Similar to Tweed. But we're in this big bay here, so it's quite a long way out for us to get out to the 50 fathom reef. So getting back to the fuel capacity before, if you're going to go straight at the front from the seaway, the closest point, 50 fathoms out here, is about 38 k's. And if you go northeast, where we fished off the jumping pin, on average is about 43k. So it's a bit further north, but it's actually a bit closer from the shoreline. So it's actually closer in there than out here. So, but you go north a bit.
Yeah, so I was wondering if there's a GPS mark to say you're at 36.
No, they don't really tell you. But if you put them all in, mate, if you put them all in, and if you go, I don't know if you got it, we always say it, Navionics Boating, which is a great boating. It's a great app to get for your phone. It is expensive. It's about $80-something a year, but it'll be your Bible for fishing. So it has 3D pictures of the bottom, so you'll see every little bit of reef on it in shaded view. So it's like looking at the bottom three-dimensionally, sort of thing, where there's reef. And if you put all the marks in, the marks you're given tonight, we'll talk about a bit later. But if you put those in, you'll understand those 3 lines I'm talking about.
And
Okay.
When you say a good day in your little boat, are you talking like
10 knots or
metre?
1.2 swell max and about 8 to 10 knots max. Yeah.
About 3 times a year.
I was going to say,
If you
not
can
as
take
popular
weekdays
as it
off.
used to be. It used to be quite common about 5 or 10 years ago. These days,
It's getting harder and harder.
but Easter or just after Easter is looking good at this stage.
Yeah.
We haven't had that sort of 5 days of good weather, I don't think, this year yet. We've had a couple of 1 or 2 days sessions, but that's about it. Okay, so now we're out in this area in 80 to 100 metres. My favourite area, okay, for doing this sort of thing. So, especially for pearl perch. So pearl perch, the time is now, April, May, June, particularly May is like the prime pearl perch time. And we get big ones, and they are the biggest suckers for slow pitch jigging. More than any other fish we can catch in the deeper water. They just love it, especially the ball jigs, especially these Octo type jigs. And the size is fantastic. If you can find where they are in the bigger size, which is generally, so those of you go to 50 fathom reef, right, which is 85 metres deep, most people won't go past 90 metres deep. They stay in that little 1k east to west safe zone for some reason. But if you go another K out, the bottom goes from that angle to that angle, okay? On that sort of 95 metre mark or 98 metres. And that's along this edge here is this wireweed, which did have exhibit A, but I've lost it somewhere. Oh, is it there, Stu? Oh. Stewie's got it here. Oh, I don't want to break it. Yeah, that's the best way. That one.
This is very hard.
It is very hard. This is a common coral we get off the Gold Coast, okay? That's wireweed, okay?
So it grows on little rocks.
And I thank the customer for giving that piece that last bit broke that I caught. So this is the stuff that our pearl perch and snapper and
general bottom stuff. Like,
yeah.
This is like our
Live in
reef.
that.
We don't get reef out in that depth. We get
I think there's
more
coral there.
more
Yeah.
of this part.
More of this. This is a hard coral.
Yeah.
Okay, it looks like a spring out of an old bed. That's called wireweed. And it grows up to about 2 meters long. And they live in amongst this. So there might be another piece here and they swim in between it. And it's their protection and it's their food source because there's a little fish in there as well. But when a jig comes down, they just come straight up out of it and nail it. And they love it.
Good part about fishing around this type of stuff as well, when you get snagged, it just breaks off through there or just unwinds itself and you get 99% of your snags back. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's right.
What's it look like on the sounder?
It comes up
Fuzzy
like a
stuff.
yeah, fuzzy. Fuzzy is the word
like a
for it.
light colour fuzz. Yeah. Very descriptive.
Yeah, so it'll look like this. I'll show you exactly how it looks. It's generally blue-green colour on most sounders. Let's do a black and white one. So I'll draw this as the outline of the sounder. And let's just say we've got a split screen again. So if we're going out from, say, we're 90 metres and I want to try and find wireweed. And so I'm just 1K past where I normally fish at 50 fathoms. And the bottom's gone from that to, it's gone from this angle here. Oh, sorry. This angle here, slowly going down. All of a sudden it goes a little bit more steeper. I've hit about 98 metres at that angle, roughly speaking. 95, 98, 100, depends where you are. And the bottom starts to go in a little bit, not maybe not that steep, but a little bit more different angles, sorry. Okay. But when I'm going down there and I've got it zoomed in, I might just see a little tiny bit of, looks like that. It's a little bit like that on the side. Okay, but when I put on the zoom in, so I'm zoomed in between, say, let's say between here and here, looking at over here now. So my bottom's sort of gone slowly down and then it's starting to taper down a bit faster. All of a sudden there'll be a couple of little bumps and that blue will now look, the wireweed will start to look like this sort of character. And that's how it sort of looks, okay? But I'm thinking, well, that's not very wide, so it's going to drift real quick. But the wireweed runs more north-south, okay? So now when I go, so that's, I've looked out there. Meanwhile, my GPS over here, I've marked those two marks as here and here. And I've been running in this fashion out, heading out east over here, north. And that's on my plotter, okay? So I'm heading that way. So you can see my track mark. I've gone like this, mark that spot, and I've gone, oh, hang on, I'll go around and have a look at that again. So what I'll do then is I'll do a UE, and I'll go then hit that spot right there, and I'll run then, I'll just keep running until the wireweed stops. So now my bottom, I'm just going to take this off here for a sec. I hope this all makes sense, but it's really important that you learn this. Unfortunately, we'll catch more fish, which means I'll get less fish, but that's all right. So now I'm down at this depth here, right? So my bottom's become flat pretty well. And when I was at that point there, back here, the wire weed was like this, right? On the bottom. Oh, sorry. It's not very much on the bottom there. It's just like that. There might be a bit more here. Sort of scratchy. But over on this end of town here, it's quite aggressive. And then when I've got to here, it's become a little bit bigger because I'm going up here. So I've marked another spot here. And then it's gone to taper down a bit, and then it's come back up again. So I've marked another spot here. So I've now got 3 spots, and that might be 300 meters from one end of town to the other end of town. So what I'll do then is I'll say, okay, I know it's good wire weed there, and I can see the odd fish on it, whatever it might be. And pearlies come up as just dots, like so. So I've got good fish on those 3 spots there. So what I'll do is I'm in this one. So I'll just get away from my, I don't want to put them off with my sounder. So I'm going to stop and I'll drift now. Actually, I'll go this way, sorry. Turn that way. Say the wind's blowing a little bit from the northwest on this diagonal here, but there's a bit of current this day. It's running maybe 1.2 knots to the south. So I'll start here, and I think, well, if the wind's going that way, I should theoretically drift this way, right? But no, hang on. I'm actually, so that's why I did a blind drift for like a couple of minutes. I'm realising I'm not actually drifting that way with the wind. I'm actually drifting more that way because that's the way that the current's actually more stronger than the wind, if that makes sense. So it's keeping me more south than on the angle with the wind. That's sometimes how it works. So what I'll do then is I'll then go up to probably about here. I'll go back up, but maybe it's here, sorry. And I'll start my drift. And I'll drop my jigs down. And hopefully the first mark, I'm just on the inside of this because I want to nail this one here is the best one. So I'll just get that edge of this one here. And then I'll hopefully nail that one. And I'll go on the outside of this one here. And then the next drift, I might have hopefully caught some fish jigging. The next fish, I go back out wide around again. I don't go back over the top of it because I don't scare them. And then this time I might start my drift in here a bit closer. And I'm missing that first spot, but I know the second spot's good. So I'm going on the inside of the first spot, but I'm going to nail exactly that last spot. And the third time, I might go around to the other side, actually start about here, and get that first spot there, because I missed it the first 2 goes, and I'll get the outside of the second spot. Obviously, I'm going to miss the third one. And that's how you sort of do it. You work across it, you grid line it, until you work out where the fish are. And if I've got fish on that first drift at this spot here, another one in that middle one here, and here, then I know next time I come out, if the wind's blowing northeast and my drift's that way, then I'm going to drift across those 2 there. Does that make sense? So you're building your spot all the time for the next time you come out.
So how far up your mark would you go?
Depends on the drift.
So current.
Yeah, it depends on the current and the wind. So if I was drifting fairly fast, Peter, on that drift,
Yes.
I might actually start up here a bit further.
It'll be 100 meters up.
Yeah,
Possibly.
yeah. If I'm using say a 80-gram jig.
Yeah.
But if it's too fast, then I'll switch up to a 130-gram jig or 140.
Yeah.
And reverse a lot as I'm going through it.
Yeah.
Just remember that every time you reverse, for some reason, you think you're reversing straight. You're never reversing straight. So you reverse mark, you'd be perfectly straight, and reverse back a bit for the boys, and then you put it back to neutral, and you're jigging away.
Yeah,
and you look at the track, and you've gone across about 10 meters, and you're going to miss that second cross. So next time you counteract it in. That makes sense.
Do you find drifting like that is more productive than spot blocking?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Unless you've got a windy day and it's very hard to stay in contact with the bottom. As long as you know yourself with electrics in windy days, they're in and out of the water all the time. It's hard on the motors in the boat too. So sometimes it's just like you're better off not using it. But if you got a day where there's like not too rough a sea, big wide swell, something like that, and you've got 10 knots of wind, and it's just so much easier to hold yourself on the spot and not too much current. It definitely, like I said before, take advantage of it. Yeah, use it.
So, Doug, I'm interested, you in 100 metres of water, and you're still not wanting to drive over the fish because you reckon it scares them?
Pearlies talk. So if you've got a mate that has a habit of dropping fish before you bash him, you'll get 2 drifts or 3 drifts out of it. Pearl perch talk, 100%. And other pearl perch is what happens to a lot of people, including us at times, is you get a good pearl perch on, it might be 65 centimetres or whatever it may be, and you'll get it to the top, and it's on the jig, yeehaw, you know, with the high five. It just, they have a habit of sitting on the top like that, and then they go, and then they go back down again. And then it's all over after the next drift. So they
all swim back down.
They swim
They'll
back
never
down
fall off
amazingly.
and float.
And they talk. And they talk.
Really?
100%.
So you change spots then?
You will. You go look for another spot. Or you'll come back later. But I'll give it another drift. Maybe one. You might get 2 more drifts out of it before the whole word's out.
I thought you were going to ask if he actually speaks Pearlese or whatever they speak. I thought you were going to ask that. But anyway. I think the other...
Seriously, tell you, it's the truth.
They do.
How many people have caught lots of pearl perch? You haven't yet.
Yeah.
Okay, how many people want to catch lots of pearl perch?
Yeah, they're pretty good at it.
They're the best to eat.
The other thing is, if you pull up to a spot like this that you've marked from last trip and you get there and you're like, oh my God, I've just driven 45 Ks and there's nothing here, still fish it. Because sometimes they're all stuck in here.
They're hiding in there.
And you'll catch one fish and then you'll look at your sound and they'll be like everywhere.
Second drift's
they come out
amazing.
Yeah.
The second drift's sometimes your best drift or your third drift. Yeah. And as Stu said, the alarm bells are ringing, the dinner bells ringing. Yeah. And they'll all come out. All of a sudden, the sound of which before was like a few, like might have been just that many dots, will look like I did before. It'll just start growing. Yeah. And they'll come out of the wireweed. And you're talking also other fish. You're talking
pigfish,
pigfish, big pigfish, barcode, snapper, of course, kingies. They all live amongst the wireweed. They all come out of the wireweed. Yeah. The wireweed is like the holy grail of a reef to find off the Gold Coast. Yeah. And if you if you got some wireweed spots sit on the 24 fathoms, we get guys get 60 centimetre pearlies on jigs on 24 fathoms because they found a patch of wireweed. It's like it's like a 5-star hotel for a fish. Yeah.
So if we're in a standard trailer boat, that's this is probably on the deep end of what we fish. We don't have big high power transducers and stuff like that. Are you sounding really slow?
Yeah, no, sounding really slow. You got to slow down. But any of your standard 600 watt transducer, what was 600 watts? Is that my standard?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, we'll no problems at all.
Yeah. So just kind of like
so you'll have the option on your sounder like 200 or 83 kilohertz. The old one's 250 kilohertz. Switch down to 83 or 50, and the pitch will all of a sudden come out a lot clearer. Yeah, that's probably the range. Yeah. More. Yeah. Here we go. Okay, getting back to the jigs now. So we're chasing the pearlies. So look, in the slow pitch style, anything up to about 130, 150 gram. That's 170, but anything that sort of size max, that type of thing. We believe this is a new jig we just got in. I reckon the pearlies are going to eat that, and I hope to catch them 2 at a time. The trouble with pearl perch is when they're on, you're only allowed 4 per person, okay? And there is a boat limit. Oh no, it's not on pearlies.
No, not on
snappers.
Snappers are.
Yeah, pearlies are 4 per person. So 2 drifts and you're done. And they're good pearlies too. But you've been out there catching pearlies, and I've been out there.
Yeah, Mark, you go.
Yeah, and got a few, yeah. So I don't mind you guys, if I'm out there, just look for me, follow me. I don't care. Still got to catch them. But there's so much wireweed out here. Like every time we go out, we find new spots. And when we're traveling out there, if you've got a good enough sounder, you can travel at 20 knots. Have a 10-meter window on the bottom, and anything you see as a little bump, doesn't matter the size of a pimple, mark it. Doesn't matter running north or east or southeast even. I love catching pearl perch down off sort of Kira, Burley area, like 2807. I've got some really good marks down there. Yeah, one time Jack and I got a double header of 70 centimetre pearlies down there. But they're still there all the time. And that's similar around about that 98 metres. But 90 to, or 88 actually to 130 metres is the pearl perch highway for big pearl perch. But you get all the other species as well. Do you all know what a pigfish is? So pigfish are getting close as well, but predominantly out wider, but they're bigger out wider. So they're maybe 1.5 kilos, 50 centimetre ones. They're like our version of coral trout, a red coral trout. And they're really nice to eat as well. Yeah, so they live with the pearl perch. So sometimes you get one-on-one together in the same line, same jig, sometimes. Very often, not very often, sorry. Okay. But yeah, it's the species we chase. The only thing is when you're fishing this lighter line, if you're using like P2 or P1.5, 30 or 40 pounds, you will get, unfortunately, when you get out to 80 metres plus, you get a lot of kingfish and amberjack. So you might get a 25 kilo amberjack jump on your line. Don't know how you go getting it up. We struggle.
It's hard. It's hard.
And generally lose it, but give it a crack. But it's common occurrence. You're probably going to get about, if you've got 10 fish on for the day, probably 2 are going to be kingies or amberjack. Okay, and do you get them up? Not always, unfortunately. Sharks aren't too bad out there as well. We have a lot more shark problem in closer than we do out wide. So sharks in closer are a pain. Yes?
What makes you choose an Octo jig compared to a braid jig, whether inside or outside?
Well,
I think it's just personal.
It's personal preference. It's
Yeah.
personal preference, but the Octo jigs definitely on pearl perch, for example, work better. And snapper, I believe, too. But that picture I think we put on Facebook a couple of years ago, Stu and I dropped down. I got one about 4.5, 5 kilos, and he gets one about 7 or 8 kilos.
Pretty standard.
On the Octo jigs,
they're all Octos, yeah.
at like 10 seconds apart.
Yeah.
So, Kurt, you got to go, buddy? Yeah, okay, mate. I'll talk to you tomorrow, mate. Thank you. So it's got to be what you have to what you have faith in yourself. If you believe in something and you seem to make it work better. Yeah. And that's like colour. It's like everything in this sort of thing we're talking about.
So in that depth, you're just working that bottom 10 metres?
Yeah.
I think it's,
Yeah,
if you
20
see
metres
fish
maybe.
stay up 30 metres,
Let's
I'd
say,
work to 30 metres or
yeah.
a bit past it.
Yeah.
That's where it's easy if you hit the bottom and you work up.
Yeah.
You use your multicolour braid backwards, if that makes sense. Yeah.
If you max out on pearl perch, what's you change strategy or you just keep?
Yeah, look, if I'm catching sort of one-on-one, one pearl perch, one pigfish, I'll keep going because they're very hardy. So they don't ever get the bends or anything like that. They just go straight back down, especially when they fall off your hook. So yeah, I'd probably say to give it a bit more of a crack, maybe get snapper as well. But otherwise, you can't go any wider because you're going to catch more pearl perch. You need to come in closer and switch to kingies and amberjack or snapper.
And you change to like fast jigging?
Yeah, can give that a crack. Yeah, 100%. We do that. Yeah. So sometimes we're going to chase some pearlies, and by 6:30 we're already bagged out of pearlies. So I think, oh, okay. So we'll do exactly that, mate. We'll go and fish the ledge for kingies, whatever, amberjack, or drive a snapper. Yeah. So the beauty is about, that's why we do the seminar again this time of the year, is because the next 4 or 5 months is what we do with this sort of thing. So, and the species you can catch on slow pitching is by far a lot more than you get fast jigging. So fast jigging, it's like kingies, amberjack, Samson occasionally, because we don't have many out here, and snapper we've caught fast jigging as well. Very rarely pearl perch, the odd one.
Yeah, you only really get...
You don't get like 5 species maybe, but slow pitch you'll get 20 or 30 species. It's a lot better, and it's a lot easier on you. You're not so tired doing it. Yeah. Any questions on that so far, guys? Everyone's clued up. Good. So are there any questions on fishing the 50,000 reef? The only thing I can tell you again is if you're fishing a ledge, and there are a few ledges up north particularly, that go from sort of 88 straight up to 80, so you get like 10 or 8 metre wall. It's like full on lose lure area. So fish the back side of it, not the front of it, because you're guaranteed to get hooked up on the ledge, the wall. Okay.
When you say the backside,
the backside is very steep. So the west side of it's very steep. It's just a wall, and then the east side tapers down. But you get a lot of fish on. Sometimes the fish are all in front of the wall, but it's a little bit of a suicide drop. Yeah, and the fish sharks there too. You rarely see the sharks within 100 metres, 80 metres. I'll do the GPS marks last. We'll talk about that, where to go. Okay, so we've done most of the jigs. Look, if you had heavier jigs, like this sort of thing here, that sort of thing there, and as the gentleman was saying, you'd have a few hooked up with a lot bigger hooks, of course, ready to do fast type jigging. The question no one's asked is, can you jig a fast jig on a slow pitch rod? It's a little bit harder because it's very bendy, right? And you're going very fast, the tip's all over the joint. You just got to get the rhythm right. So just probably slow it down a bit, but keep it fast at the same time. Don't do crazy big jigs like you would normally do. Just slow it down a little bit, but keep it going. It's probably about the best way to use it. Sometimes we use those long rods.
It's hard. You can't really do it well.
Not on a super soft rod, you can't.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
It's like trying to surf fish with a 5-foot rod. It's just hard. It's hard.
That's
You can do it, but not well.
Yeah, so that's the reason why I had some of that sort of thing. If you actually use the long jig, slow pitch jig it, which is more meant to be fast type jig, but slow pitch jig it, you'll catch the kings and amberjack on it. So if you bag it in your pearlies and go do that sort of thing, but slow it down, like I said before, get the rhythm right, you'll be able to do it on a slow pitch rod, I believe. We don't do it much because we have both rods, so we switch. Yeah. Okay.
Same reel on different rods?
No, I go a bit bigger each, heavier ones. I go. My spin rods, like if I'm going to do it fast, I don't use much more. I've got 18 to 20,000 big ones, but I rarely go above 8,000 size. And the 8,000, as Stuart saying before, the braid's so thin.
Yeah.
I'm running like 300 metres of 80 pound on it, and it's only a little 8,000 reel. It's big enough.
Yeah,
20 kilos of drag.
For all my fast
six.
jigging, yeah.
Yeah, 6 or an 8's fine. So you don't need to go. The old days, we used 20,000 Spheros or Saragosas, whatever. I rarely use those reels anymore because the braid's got so thin and the drag's got so strong. So what was actually 20 kilos of drag, 18 kilos of drag on a 20,000 Saragosa, say 10 years ago when I first come out, and we were like, wow, it's so powerful. It's not a Stella, but it's still got power. And it holds 300 metres of 80-pound braid. Well, now that little 6,000 holds 300 metres of 70-pound braid, and it's got 20 kilos of drag. So it's the whole playing field's changed, and it's so much nicer in your hand. So you just don't need big reels anymore. We hardly sell 18,000 to 20,000 reels these days, unless guys are going deep water or trolling or whatever it may be.
Like that little combo there, I use that out to 250, 300 metres. I've got 400 metres of PE2 on it. It's enough. I've never been busted off. I will, but just not yet. Yeah.
So how strong is PE boost, Dewey?
40 pound.
40.
Yeah. 40 pound and good stuff. Yeah.
So you can, and the drags are so strong these days. These little reels are just so strong, and the rods they're like bait cast rods, but they're just so strong. So different. Where years ago, to get a rod that could hold 80-pound line, it had to be, well, it's nearly as thick as your little finger, it's like a broomstick. So the old days when we used to jig, it was very hard work, 20,000s and broomstick rods and 400-gram jigs to make it work, Now it's all very different. And the jig's the same deal. So before we had to use 400-gram jigs in 80 metres to get the braid to go down because it's always current and wind, and we didn't have the luxury of using a thin braid and lighter jigs, but now we do. So we rarely go over 200 grams or 300 grams on 100 metres deep. Because you don't need to if you're using small stuff. If you've got big reels and that's what you got, you still need to go old school way. Okay. Any questions on that so far, guys? Everyone's cleared up? Good. Okay. Okay. So how many people here deep drop fish or go out wide at all? So you do on the backbone, and you do Tony, yeah. So look, same scenario. But just maybe a little bit more line capacity. If you're fishing flame snapper, and so flame snapper, guys. Again, if you got a boat that's 6 or 7 meter, people got to hit boats 6 meter plus. So a few of you have. So when you get to 50 fathoms reef, it's 40 k's out. It's a long run out. But to go from 50 fathoms to let's say 100 meters deep to 300 meters deep, you only go on about not even 10 k's, another 6 or 8 k's on average, 8 k's. So. And then to go to the shelf where it drops off in the abyss, 1,000 meters deep, it's only like half the distance of out to the 50s. It's another 20k, not even 15k. So the bottom goes like that, okay? So you don't need to go much further to go a lot deeper. So a lot of people think, oh, I can go 80 k's out to get out there. It's not that case. It's not 40 plus 40 to go to double the depth. It's only 10% more to get the same depth sort of thing again. So it's very accessible for people with 6 or 7 meter boats. Even less, we've been out there and seen people out there in 5 meter boats. Obviously got fuel capacity, know what they're doing, whatever it may be. But we're just jigging a little bit bigger reels because of the capacity of line. So you've got to use an 8,000 with say P3 on it. So you can get 500 meters or 600 meters of braid. Or like Stu's reel there, actually one size bigger.
Yeah, if you're going to do that deep water jigging, just go overhead.
Yeah.
You just get much more line capacity, better drag for the size and things like that.
Yeah.
They hold around about
700 P4.
Yeah, PA3 around 900.
Yeah. So I got 700 P4 on that. And we fish out jig out 500 meters deep. And I haven't got one yet. Stu's got a blue-eye cod down off Tweed. And Stu had a bass groper.
But soft topic, we won't talk about that.
But our mate caught it after Stu's jig out of his mouth.
His braid cut my leader and then snagged my jig on the way through.
No, it ate his jig.
It didn't. It was hooked onto my jig and then it fell out in the boat. That's fine. I'll bring the video out if you want. Anyway,
anyhow,
soft topic.
But it was about
it was 3 years ago and it's still a soft topic.
It was about a 75 kilo bass groper. It was huge. And it was on jig rod. And Stewie, I think, took about 20 minutes to even budget from the bottom.
Fought it for 45 minutes. And then he wound the rest of it up in 10. And I moved it 45 meters. Yeah. It's horrible.
Anyhow, that's the type of outfit that we use. Oh, even you had a 2000, a 5.
No, that one.
That one was a 4, yeah. Yeah. So again, it looks very light, looks very thin, extremely strong. So this rod's rated to 100 pounds, 90 pounds. Okay, and the drag on this is about 18 kilos or 20 kilos.
I got 18 on that.
18, yeah. So it's hard work, but if you want to do it, that's what we do. The only thing here is we use a bit heavier leader. So we're using like 70-pound leader, not too heavy. Again, what do we use? We catch a 150-pound fish. Your braid's only 80 pound or whatever, 70 pound. So the weakest link's going to be your knots, not the leader. And the more thicker leader you use, the more it gets current, takes it, because we're running about 4 meters a leader.
Yeah.
So you try and keep the leader as thin as you can get it, keep it all petite, so it doesn't get blown out in the current or the wind. It's the same thing, but just factored in longer.
Yeah, with any of this, the thinner braid you can use or get away with, the better, because you can fish lighter jigs. It's just easier for you at the end of the day. So if you're fishing, say Dougie's fishing PE4, I'm fishing PE2, he needs like a 200 gram jig to get to the bottom. I can get away with, say, an 80 in the same amount of time. I can race him to the bottom and beat it. It's just a line drag thing. Yep.
Yeah, so like jigs like the Rip Roller, these are 500 gram, they're mustard jig. That's my favourite colour again. A great jig, and we'll use up to 900 grams. That's a Shimano jig. That's 900 grams, so it's quite heavy. But the way they're shaped, they just go through the water like a sword. That shape there is probably the best shape. So as Stu was saying before, if you got the right shape, Japanese style, a 400 gram jig will probably beat us 900 to the bottom, because it's just like a sword going through the water. Things like this type of thing here, grading close, but not good out in deep water. Too much, there's just too much going on, too much flutter, and take your line 100 meters away where you don't want it to go. Too much flutter, okay? And you'd have to just be no current to make that work.
deep water
Yeah.
with that, we're talking like 500 meters.
Yeah,
I think
500
close
meters.
is like 200 meters.
Yeah.
So it's still a heavy jig, but
That's right. Yeah. So we try and keep it fairly long and thin. That's what it boils down to. But the jigging technique is exactly the same. And then drop back down and drop back down. And that's the technique. And they just jump on like a freight train. Yeah. So it's fairly productive. A lot of guys are doing it in that sort of 250 to 300 meters. Like 280 meters is where the flame snapper are, where your bar cod are really proactive in that area. You get kingies, you still get snapper in 280 meters as well. So it's quite deep, but they're beautiful fish. It's colder water, and the fish are very fatty. So if you can do sashimi, it's fantastic. Yeah. So and from where we are fishing in 50 fathoms out to 280 meters is only about, if you're going east-west, about probably 12k. Not even that, 10k, 8k. Not far. But we go a long way north. So we actually go 30k north, but don't go out much further. Just go north a lot further, up off Point Lookout way, which I think may be on the marks. Maybe, no, they're for next time. So I can get them for you.
Prefer using fluorocarbon or just like a soft supple one?
Yeah.
If it flames better?
For me, I like fluorocarbon up to about 50 pounds max when I'm jigging. And I probably use that only to about 65 meters deep at the most. Once I get even around there, I'd rather use 40 pound or 50 pound in a supple leader, like this one here, that type of one. I'll pass that around. You feel how supple it is. The action's much better, mate. Much better. Fluorocarbon's great because it's abrasion resistant by far. So 30 pound fluoro is not a bad size to use. It's like using 50 pound on that for abrasion resistance. It's not much thinner. Sorry, that's true. I like people to feel it. Yeah, so would never use 80 or 100. It twists the line too, mate. Spirals the line and it's coily, and when it's a lot stiffer on the lure. Yeah.
Yeah, I just use mono for any of this jig stuff, from say 20 to 100.
Yeah, a little bit different on the bottom end, but once you get over sort of 60 meters, we're the same. You just go normal mono. There's this proper line you can get, like I said before, like that Fisherman brand. That's the Japanese one. It's very, very tough on the bottom, but very, very supple at the same time. Yeah.
How long are you running on it? Like
on an overhead, I'm running about 2 to 3 meters. On my spin, I run shorts. Stu runs long.
I just use an arm's width on everything. So for me, about
He's got
12
long
foot.
arms.
Yeah. Nah, about 7 foot, roughly. Yeah, 6, 7.
I'm about 1.5 meters. Yeah. A lot of time when I'm running spin, because the guides are so small, I like that knot outside the guide, and it just falls a lot quicker.
Just tie better knots. Thin knots.
Okay, we'll go to the next subject, which is okay. Any questions on the jigging so far? We're going to now quickly cover the accessories.
Do you find the snapper or any of the species out that depth still lead the shy?
No, not
say
even
after the 36s.
Yeah, 36 and beyond. There, even 36 a little bit lead shy, but not as bad. 50s, they don't care. Don't care at all.
That doesn't
No. It's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a head, guys? Hey, guys, what's your numbers?
10 and 9.
10 and 9. Okay. If it
we do the
draws,
draw, we'll let you know.
you'll let you know. Yeah. Okay.
I'll let you.
Yeah. 10 and 9.
Thanks,
Okay.
guys.
I'll get the Kurt as well.
Um,
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Tools.
Oh, but yeah, they're going to go now, but I'll let them know 10 and 9.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Good luck out there, eh? Thank you. Okay, just real quickly, guys, tools of the trade. Look, when you're traveling, if you want to keep your jig on the rod, if you like the old school way of just keeping it all together, you can get, I've got my rod here. See these little pink things? These little things here. I'll pass this around. They're great for everything from squid jigs to jigs. So you hook your hook in the top part here. It's not a zip tie. It looks like a zip tie, but well, this is a zip tie, but different style. You hook your hook in there, and then you use a wrap whether it be something like that. Oops. So you wrap it around the jig and wrap it in place and keep it all tight on the rod, if that makes sense. So your hook's in there, jig's down there, and it doesn't rattle, swing around, doesn't get out of control. You can get longer versions of it as well.
This is pretty boring, but 95% of the jig rods that we get back broken are one's broken in the top 6 or 8 inches, and it's because on the way out, you've rigged your rods the night before, you're all excited, you've chucked your rod in the rocket launcher, you've gone over a wave, generally before you even leave the seaway.
Second guide.
Yeah, your 200 gram jig falls off and breaks your tip. Done. You get out there and your jig's hanging down with the tip stuck to it. So it's just one of those things. So if you can either take your jig off or wrap it up so it doesn't fall down, you're laughing.
Yeah. It does it, mate, in the back of his head. So that's the first thing. Guys, you need to take care of your fish. So when you get a fish in the boat, you can cut it straight if you want, but it's actually better if you actually cut inside the gill. Do you know how to do that? So that's where the main blood artery is. So just a good pair of scissors and just you cut it in the gill part, not the throat part. Just cut the throat, blood does come out. Cut in there, it just like oozes out. So cut it in the throat part, which is halfway between the top of the gill and where it joins on to the bottom of the gill. So in that section there, and just get the scissors and go like that. Dig it in deep and go like that. Okay, and the fish is so much better. Next thing you do, if you want, you can brain spike it. So if you want to brain, does anyone here brain spike their fish? Yeah, good. So you can use anything from an old screw rod or something fancy like this, but all you do is just hit it in the head. Generally on most fish, if you get that, some app studio says every time, Icky Jimmy spike or something, whatever it's called. But it shows you on every different species where to hit it with. We sell the tool downstairs, the one that brand is, it's downstairs. They float too if your mate drops it overboard. No offense, Stewie. But the fish is sort of like this sort of shape here. And that's his.
This is why we sell hooks and sinkers. We're not artists.
Whatever. But where it comes up to the fin, it's always in this area here. Okay, just above his eye, a little bit to the top side of it, and back a bit. You put it in there on an angle, like that sort of angle, not straight down, and you'll just see it curl up, and then that's it. Do you bleed the fish? I still don't know this. Do you bleed a fish before you spike it, or do you spike it first and bleed it? I know. I can never know the final answer.
Depends who you ask.
This is a question for you, mate.
Depends who you ask. I don't know. I don't really brain spike. I just bleed them.
Yeah, bleed them's really good, but brain spike is
brain spike's better.
Yeah, the flesh is more good. Does anyone know that answer at all?
I believe you brain spike them first so they don't stress out intense muscles.
Okay.
You brain spike and then the heart will pump a little bit anyway.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I think that's the ideal one, so they don't tense up.
Yeah.
I'll pass this down as Octo Jig for giving us the answer. If you're wrong, though, I'll get it back later, okay? Thanks, gentlemen, for passing that down. Okay, so brain spike it first. So this is a little brain spike. It's a dial tool. It is quite flash, but it's very nice and very, very good. Other tools besides that, split ring pliers. So you all know like this big split ring pliers like so. That one does like size 4 to size 7 or whatever it is. There is a plier that does size 0 to size 9. So whether you've got a little tiny jig this big or a jig that big, it does a lot. I'll pass it around. So 0 to size 9, which is very comprehensive, and there's no other tool on the market. Oh no, it does it. That does it. And that's about it, I think. Everything else, there's so many little things you can get, little gizmos. Fishing is non-stop, but that's a Japanese jig holder. Only if you're going to be using your rigs on the rods are ready to go. So you don't, obviously, you can get busted off. So you have the rigs pre-made, like Stewie said, solid rings, split rings, assist hooks already done in little tackle box, different size ones. And you grab out whatever you need, tie it on, put your jig on, okay? So it's a little jig holder. And what else I want to show? Oh, you can get little jig wraps as well. So this is one from Diver. It's actually a great little thing. So for slow pitch jigs, you just throw them all in there. They sit in there, hose it down, hang it up, whatever. Keeps it nice and neat and tidy. Or you can go the traditional style, because it's hard to keep jigs because they're so heavy. You put them in a plastic box, they smash the box a bit. And we're forever buying boxes all the time. They just sit in there, okay? So lots of little different things you can get and not too expensive. I think that's about it I need to tell you. Any questions at all? I really want you guys to get a jig. It's the best. And when you go overseas or go Melbourne or up to the Territory, whatever, jigging is by far one of the most popular type things you can do that works anywhere in the world. Okay? It's very good. You look like a pro if you can jig, because it catches fish. It's easy.
So when you guys go out, 90% of the time you're fishing the bottom, you're using jigs?
100%, especially the deeper water. We really take bait. I think they've taken bait for years out there. Like, when we go deep dropping, it's a different story because we're using electric reels and we're deep dropping with bait, but we'll jig as well at the same time. But in saying that, one thing we didn't mention tonight, if you got someone on the boat who's not a jigger and he wants to use bait, it's very hard to keep him happy and you happy.
Yeah.
Because you back up differently. He's using 12 ounces of lead straight to the bottom, and he's got heavy line on, so he gets dragged. You're using a jig that's taking a bit longer to get down there, but you're holding your area pretty taut. He'll say back up. You'll go, hang on, no, my line's to the front of the boat if you back up. It's like all this stuff happens. So you're all jig or no one jigs. Okay? See what the cabin tell us, shut up. Yeah, so anyhow, it's something you got to come across when you do it, but try. The only time we do both is if we use Octo jigs and rod holder, and we'll bait fish. And we're predominantly working the boat for the bait, and the Octo jig just does its own thing in the rod holder. They just catch fish. Okay, if that's any help to you guys? Okay.
Do you have a question about jig shape?
Yes.
If you're, in any of those given scenarios, how will you choose between a heavier jig with a slow flutter reaction or a lighter jig and a long skinny?
You don't know until you drop down, as in the current or wind or that. So if it's quite fast, aggressive current and the wind's blowing it the other way, and it's just too hard to hold the bottom, you have to go to a longer, skinnier jig.
I generally start with the light one.
Yeah.
It's always easy
light
to work.
flutter style's best, and then work your way skinnier, heavier.
So for preference on a glamour day, you'd prefer a slower action
100%.
jig?
Yep.
Easy to use too.
Yeah.
Do you lose lots of jigs closer in this time of year because of the mackerel?
You will. Like the other day, we lost 6 or 5 or 6 in 20 minutes. Look, it's just the way it is, but we're trying to catch mackerel too. So one thing I didn't mention before, which we've never used, but I thought about recently this year, was Helco do a little, you can make it yourself, but a little stainless steel single strand bite trace. Bite trace. Don't know if it's long. It's got a fast attach system on it. So you just hook the jig around like that. That's it, it's on. And it's tied by a little crane saw at the top. But it's just enough for them not to be able to bite you off. But because it's on a fast attach, the actual lure doesn't lose any action. So the jig still flutters and does its thing. So 100% use those. The other day we didn't have any in the boat. But that's what I'd be suggesting. Yeah, they're cheap too. Okay, cheaper than a packet of fires, cheaper than a cheap jig. So worth the exercise. Okay, I think that'll be about it. So guys, look, this weekend it's not going to be a jigging weekend. You have to wait till Easter, I think, unfortunately. But if you're going to go trolling over the weekend, you can probably go trolling for mackerel or whatever. Otherwise, get your gear ready for that good weather coming up, if it comes, that is.
How long do the mackerel stay around?
I'll call them out to August, but generally speaking, about Easter's the best time, but May, June. So if you want to have a crack at the mackerel on jigs, definitely get those little wire traces, or make up your own little wire trace. Keep it short, 100mm max. Keep the swivels small, size 6 or size 5 crane, little black swivel, and fast attach about a size 2 or 1 or 2, probably either or. And you can buy all those little bits and pieces and make your own ones up and buy some single strand wire and do a haywire twist, or you buy them pre-made. But definitely have a rod rigged up with the sort of jiggle, that type of thing, or maybe a bit longer, and not so fluttery, because as I said before, they eat the fluttery ones. So it's too easy for them because it's slow going down, and they look good, but they'll just come and eat the whole thing. A fast one shoots away, they've got to work for it, but that's what they like. They like chasing that sort of thing, fast action. Yeah, so use the more the skinnier type on the mackerel. But have it ready for this week if you're going to go out, or next week. Taste some mackerel, have some jigs set up, one jig set up. Don't use Octo jigs, I'll just scoff them like lollies. Yeah. Alrighty, that's it. Okay, good on you. Get out there, give it a crack. Thanks, Stu. Okay, let's do the draw. No other questions? Everyone's good? No, cool, thanks for being patient tonight. Okay, the draw tonight, we've got about $1,500 worth of gear. First prize is, there it is. About $500 worth as always. It's a rod and some jigs and bits and pieces. Overhead style. Stewie, it's going to go to, right down the back, number 30. You got it, love? Well done. Tony, you've scored another rod. But love, don't let him use it, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well
Enjoy.
done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, good on you. Okay, next one I think is still around about nearly $300 worth or something. Heap of jigs and bits and pieces. Pliers and Octo. Let's talk about the Octo jigs.